I am Jessie Nealand of Remodel Fitness. In almost 9 years as a personal trainer and empowerment coach for women, I've seen over and over again the difficulty that many women face of not knowing how to ask for what they want and what they need, or for not fully understanding what they want or need in the first place, and not knowing what to do with the uncomfortable emotions like pain and jealousy and shame and anger and fear. I showed you 2 of my favorite practices in the first 2 videos this week. Number 1, how to use specific and vivid language to get what you want without being pushy. And number 2, how to reframe your mindset to fall in love with your dark material. Today, I want to present another practice for how to live a more fulfilling, joyful, and empowered life. This practice is called unconditional positive regard, and it is easily the most transformational practice that I know of. So many women struggle with social anxiety or the feeling of being completely drained by social interactions. Now, some people will try to tell you that that's just called being an introvert, but based on my experience with lots of different kinds of people, I suspect that way more of us have the potential to be nourished and energized by social interactions than we're aware of. Here's why. Because being inauthentic is exhausting. Pretending to be something we're not is so draining. And it requires a whole extra layer of energy and attention because you're doing instead of just doing something. But just being, that is being completely authentic and not pretending in any way, that creates a whole other kind of interaction. One that makes you feel seen and validated and loved for who you really are. Very often, as women, we have spent our entire lives cultivating a social persona which isn't really us. It's more of like a composite of all the rules that we've learned about what people want and need from us. We work hard not to be a bother, often pretending to be happy when we feel sad, pretending to have our shit together when we feel like a total mess, or pretending not to care about something or someone that we actually really deeply care about. Since we were often taught to make other people comfortable, to make them feel good even at our own expense, we often work really hard to conceal our unique weirdness and to play up our socially accepted traits like being friendly and bubbly and polite and nice. We also play up our masculine traits like rationality and ambition when we want to be given authority or respect. And we naturally downplay our feminine traits like creativity and intuition. We also use vague and non-confrontational language, using terms like weird and fine to describe stuff so that we alienate the least amount of people. These kinds of interactions are exhausting. And more importantly, they reinforce a dangerous and inaccurate belief that a lot of people hold, which is that other people can't handle you, or that other people just kind of suck. Our beliefs about ourselves and about other people become self-fulfilling prophecies, and this one in particular has a tendency to bring out the worst in each other. And that's because when you treat people like they couldn't handle the real you, they feel your inauthenticity and they go on the defensive to protect themselves from you, like offering you a colder, less vulnerable, and less kind and truthful version of themselves. That's the inauthentic spiral most people get caught in socially, and it's not particularly enjoyable or nourishing for anyone. So it's no wonder that we are a culture of introverts right now. Everyone is so drained because everyone is pretending to be something they're not as they interact with each other. This video is about embracing the concept that we can break free from that spiral by simply being the first person to be authentic and vulnerable. Personally, I used to suffer from debilitating social anxiety, and then that completely changed practically overnight. And I consider myself an absolute extrovert. I guess at times, whatever. It can go both ways, but I definitely do not have social anxiety, and I don't identify as an introvert anymore, whereas I really, really did for a long time. And what happened when people always ask what shifted, I think of this story. A friend of mine was asking me about it. He's like, how come you never, say hello in the morning to the other trainers and just all these questions? And I said, basically, I just wish that nobody could ever see me. Like that'd be my ideal day, was like no one saw me except my clients, Like there was no small talk. I just wanted to slide through the door without anyone seeing me, nobody making eye contact, nobody saying hi, nobody making small talk. And he was like listening, and he goes, well, okay, I totally get that, but like, they can see you, right? And I was like, oh my God, it suddenly became so clear. I didn't want to have the responsibility of affecting anyone. But no matter what, I was already affecting them. And by trying to avoid affecting them, I was affecting them in a really negative way. Because avoiding eye contact and kind of shrinking and mumbling and running away, which is all what I did, I made people around me feel awful. They felt like threatened and defensive and cold because it looked like I didn't like them. So therefore, my anxiety would get worse, because I was living in a world full of people who were constantly protecting themselves against me. So that moment, I remember being like, okay, I'm going to fix this thing. Because if I could admit I was affecting people anyway, that my energy was affecting people no matter what, because they could see me, then I no longer really had the luxury of feeling like I didn't matter. And that's kind of where it came from. So every single day with every single person that I interacted with, since my energy impacted them, for better or for worse, I matter. And I'd been impacting them for the worst. And that was like making it so much worse for me. I had been impacting them. I'd been bringing out the worst in everybody that I met, basically. And as a result, I lived in a world full of people who kind of sucked. So as soon as I started behaving differently, and by differently, I mean I was using my full voice to say good morning, I was standing up taller, I was, power posing and making eye contact and asking questions instead of rushing away. When I started behaving that way, I saw an immediate positive change in the people I was interacting with. And I realized that by trying not to impact people, I'd been shirking my responsibility on Earth, just because I felt like I had nothing to offer. But as soon as I started showing up with the understanding that I was already impacting people, I may as well do it in a positive way, I realized that I actually had a lot to offer, just by being myself. And my confidence skyrocketed as I watched people receive and appreciate the gifts that were my attention, my eye contact, my vulnerability and authenticity, and my positive energy. And with the realization that I have these gifts came the understanding that sharing those gifts with people is why I'm here. It's why we're all here. To give each other gifts just by being ourselves. I believe my life purpose has nothing to do with my career or my life choices. It's all about my willingness to share the gifts of being my most authentic and vulnerable self with others. I see it as I don't have gifts, I am gifts. And I'm not the only one. I believe every single one of us is gifts. And that belief now guides my social interactions. I treat people like their very presence in front of me is meaningful and important because when they're allowed and encouraged to share their authentic and vulnerable selves, I get to receive their gifts. And the crazy thing is when you treat people this way, they feel it. Instead of being threatened and defensive, they become warmer and more present and more relaxed. When they feel safe with you and liked by you, they allow their habitual defensive facades to drop, and they allow themselves to be a bit more vulnerable. And this kind of interaction feels as good for them as it does for you. It's nourishing instead of draining. And in this way, you can get yourself caught in a positive upward spiral with everyone you meet. A person who feels safe and liked and seen and accepted is changed forever. And it only takes one person to see and accept their carefully hidden selves for them to be transformed. And that's why there's so many movies and books about a young, screwed up kid who suddenly blossoms and becomes a hero, all because one coach or teacher believed in them. The way that you interact with people is your legacy. The impact that you have on others is the only thing you will leave behind, and there's no avoiding it. People see you, and they feel you, even if you put all your energy into being invisible. So why not put it towards being visible and leaving an impact and making it positive? Your job here on Earth, in my opinion, is to impact people, and You literally can't avoid doing it. So how are you impacting people? Do people blossom in your presence, or do they wither? Do they light up around you, or do they retreat into the darkness? How do you want them to react? How do you want them to feel? What gifts do you want to give them? I have a little experiment for you to try with the next intimidating person you meet, the person that you would normally feel insecure around and might make you shrink and mumble and avoid eye contact, and maybe it's because they seem cold, or maybe it feels like they don't like you. So that's a person to try this on. The experiment is that you visualize that they adore you. You imagine that they really, really want to be your friend. And you visualize how they just maybe pulled their friend aside at the party and whispered like, "Oh man, look at that girl. She's so cool and pretty and intimidating. I really hope I get to meet her." And if that's too hard, just practice conscious vulnerability. And that means making the choice to put yourself out there first by letting the person know you like them, even if you're not sure how they feel. Or let the person know you're inauthentic, not as an apology, but as a way of creating a safe space to be authentic, instead of putting up a front of like, "Oh, I'm good, I'm fine." Go deeper with people with conscious vulnerability, and go in with the assumption that they want to be your friend, that they're going to like you. These are ways of letting people feel safe and relax and become their best selves. And every single person you meet, when you do this, will have a gift for you. The only way you can receive those gifts is by helping them feel safe and authentic and vulnerable. And you also have gifts for each person, and they desperately need you to be authentic and vulnerable in order to receive them. You will see, if you try this, you'll see how people start to shine when you treat them this way. You'll see the world you live in completely transformed, and your influence has the potential to spread because of it. You have the power to be a part of a positive ripple effect across the world, in which every person you interact with is raised up and then turns around to raise up others. This is done simply by owning your impact, standing fully in your impact, choosing to make it be a positive one, and allowing your authentic and vulnerable self to be shown while holding a safe space for others to do the same. This is unconditional positive regard. It's a mindset that it's not you versus the world, it's you plus the world. It's a mindset that lets go of competition and embraces synergy. And it's a mindset that you don't have to be small for someone else to be big. Can you imagine living in a world where every single person treated each other with certainty that we are impactful and they are amazing? A world where standing more firmly in your power instead of giving it up gives you the ability to more effectively elevate everyone you meet? Or a world where you don't have to choose between yourself and everyone else, because there's a continuous exchange of gifts and energy that raises up and nourishes everyone? I want you to be a part of that ripple effect. That's why I created a course called the Empowered Women Project, and I'm launching it next week. I'm going to have a video for you tomorrow with all the details on the course and how you can sign up, so please stay tuned. This will be a very limited offer, so if you want to be a part of this personal and global transformation, be on the lookout for tomorrow's video. Sign up is only going to last a few days, and due to the hugely positive response I got from the beta test group who went through the course this spring, I fully expect to sell out the limited number of spots. If you liked this video, please leave me a comment letting me know, and I look forward to sharing all the details of the Empowered Women Project with you tomorrow.